What's going on, people? Welcome to episode 118 of the show with me, Michael Labs. So, first things first, let's knock it out real quick. I want to give a huge, the standard. We are praying. Texas and Louisiana got crushed by a hurricane this past weekend. Started at midnight. What's today? Thursday. On Wednesday at midnight, and I'm recording this on Thursday. You guys are watching this on Tuesday, so we don't really have all the details of everything that's happened. But all I'm going to say is it touched down at Category 5, and it's there's already people struggling with finances and poverty, schools, just a lot of stuff going on. And a Category 5 hurricane is absolutely devastating, and just wanted to knock it out up front. I hope everybody out there in Texas, I have a decent amount of people who listen to my podcast that live in Texas, and I hope you find safety. I hope you can get back on your feet quickly. Now, if there wasn't a lot of damage, I just sound like an idiot because I'm trying to forecast the future, but I'm assuming that it's not going to be a good situation for old Texas and Louisiana. God, there's a lot of stuff going on right now in this country. You know, it's weird. Mainly in this country, it seems like internationally it's been quiet. I hope that's true. I hope internationally there isn't a lot of chaos going on either, or there isn't an escalating amount of chaos that there normally is. But in this country, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of tribes getting together. There's a lot of movements happening every day. Seems like there's a new movement going on. 95% of them are positive. 95% of them are peaceful. I want to make not yet. I want to talk about something real quick before I get into what's happening right now in this country. And the only reason why I say if is because I don't want to speak upon something that I myself have not fully thought about or fully conversed with enough people. It's the Mr. Blake situation that took place in Wisconsin, and I don't want to speak about it yet because if I speak about it, because I just don't feel like I don't feel like me saying something is going to help anything if what I say is not it's a tough situation. I don't really want to continue talking about it right now. I'm not saying I won't, and I know this is very different from my normal podcast. Normally I get up here and I just shoot from the hip, but I haven't looked into it. I haven't really read anything. I've just seen the protest. You know, obviously I paid attention to when the NBA shut down for the day or two, the MLB shut down for a day and two, and I'm recording this on Thursday, so it's only been about 48 hours since everything has really taken off. So I don't have all the details. Therefore, I don't want to speak about something that's that strongly heated and has that many eyes looking on it. I just don't feel like it's my place right now to speak on it. But with that being said, I'm going to speak on something that is, I think, a little bit more controversial. It's something that is definitely a fascinating thought experiment, a fascinating concept, a fascinating viewpoint, but one that is completely dismissed from everyday language, one that will get you in trouble if you speak upon it at certain gatherings, will get you killed in certain countries, and something that I find that I don't really have a personal answer to it, but it is something that I definitely love to ponder. I like to think about, and I enjoy going at it from a bunch of different angles. So I've been reading this book lately. By the time this podcast comes out, I should be done with this book. It's taken me a few weeks to get through it for a few reasons. One reason is it's a complicated book in the sense that there's a lot of moving parts. It's a book called The Righteous Mind: Why Politics and Religion Divide Good People. It's by Jonathan Haidt, who's he's a social psychologist at, I don't know where he's at now. I don't know exactly what he's teaching out now, but he used to teach at University of Virginia, Charlottesville, not the one that's in Blacksburg. That's an inside joke for my dad, who doesn't watch these podcasts. At least I don't think he does. If he does, that would be really fascinating if my dad watched them. So the book basically, the author is a social psychologist. I've listened to him on the Rogan podcast, and then I listened to him again. So I listened to him one time on the Rogan podcast, a year ago when he first came out, and then I listened to him again halfway through this book, so I can listen to his voice. So I can, when I'm reading the book, I kind of understand more where the words are coming from. It's just that kind of book that I find you really need to be aware of what you're reading, because every line, every paragraph, every chapter introduces just a wealth of knowledge and just a wealth of new concepts, new ideas to really get your mind thinking in a very abstract and complex way. So politics, the parties. Yeah, I don't really want to talk about the politics too much. I want to talk about the religion concept, the modern day view on religion. And mainly what I want to speak about is the history of religion. And just a quick disclaimer. I feel like I do this in every podcast episode, but I'm not a professional. I'm not a academic. I'm not a scholar. I hold no degree. I hold my right hand up and I say, I am not a professional or a specialist in any topics of evolution or religion or anything I'm about to speak about. These are just my personal opinions, influenced by other people, formulated for a couple of days in my brain and shot from the hip. So with that being said, I also don't claim to be an atheist. I claim to, because I think there's a valid argument there that being an atheist is a religion. You subscribe to a belief that there is no God. You don't believe in a God, but you believe in an idea that a God doesn't exist. And I think you can translate ideas into a God, so I think it's more of a idealism movement, and it's a movement that comes with a lot of variety of humans, and it's a movement, it's a group of people that they do believe in a lot of things. So the biggest belief is that a God doesn't exist. I think a valid argument could be made, well, that is a religion in some sense. So I grew up Catholic. I grew up in the Catholic Church. I think I moved out in third grade. Before that, I was in private school. My private school was a Catholic church. We went to church on Sunday mornings, my family. Sometimes we would go on Saturday night with my grandmother. We went to church at least one time as a class during the week. I would repent my sins to the Father in that little doorway or the little box with the screen in front of you, which was fucking weird. And that's always something that's kind of made me steer the other direction with religion. I went to Bible school. My parents are both practicing Catholics. Not practicing too much right now, but there's crosses in my house, there's Bibles. I've read the Bible, all the standard stuff. But around 15 years old, I kind of diverted my path of the religious in a religion sense, and I think the reason why is because I wanted so badly to believe in other ways of life. I wanted to believe in evolution. I wanted to learn about evolution. I wanted to kind of fit in too with the people I moved in with. I moved into a public school system where a lot of kids are religious but not Catholic, practicing Catholics. It's not mandatory. It's kind of almost shameful. So I think that's probably where it started from, feeling outcasted. So I kind of dropped a label quickly. And then it turned into just, I definitely rebelled against what my parents taught me. Just as a teenage boy, I think that was something that I always felt. The main reason why I really stopped practicing my faith and I stopped going to church is it's tough. I've never really thought about it. I think there was just, the more I learned about science, the more I started to learn about, actually, I kind of do know. So the more I started learning about evolution, there was moments where I was happy to finally figure out, the stages of human development. And I found it so intriguing. There were so many parts of it that was just so fascinating to me, like the size of the brain with its rapid growth over a period of 2 million years. It like more than doubled in size, which just doesn't exist among anything, especially a brain, which is us. It's where consciousness lives. It's where my thoughts live. It's where my being is. Who I am as a person is my brain, but that thing just doubled in 2 million years. And religion didn't provide an answer for it. It didn't provide comfort for it. I think faith, and this is when you kind of get into the evolution side of it, I think faith is at the cornerstone a comfort place for people. The idea of death is by far the scariest thing we all have to deal with. It's so scary that I think a lot of people even deny death. They don't even think about it. You ask them about death, and sometimes they literally don't think they'll die because it's just so overwhelming. It's something that you're just not designed to pay attention to. And I think the act of having a faith and having a God and having an afterplace, a heaven, a hell. Heaven and hell allows you to set up rules that you have to live by in your life, to have an organized group of people, an organized tribe, an organized country. You need some type of regulation. Now, if that regulation is just people, people don't like other people ruling them. People don't like being told what to do by other people. Well, if you can say, well, if you don't do this, God would do this. Well, it's not a people anymore. It's a higher power. It's something that is abstractly larger than you, greater than you, has power over you, and will hurt you if you don't obey, or will punish you if you don't obey, or will drop you in the caste system if you don't obey. You cannot steal. Why? Not because a human would do something. Yes, that will also happen, but because Jesus or the God or Allah or whoever it is will hurt you in the long run, mentally, physically, emotionally. You will be punished for your deeds on this planet. It provides a rule book. It provides the commandments. It provides how to live a life. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not have sex with the neighbor's wife. Thou shalt not, whatever. There's a lot of thou shalt nots. And it provides a rule book of how to live your life. And I find it so fascinating. Oh, the other thing I've said, the other reason why I kind of grew away from the church is when all the stuff was coming out about the Pope and Vatican City and sex scandals just popping up. I remember like 2 years ago. I mean, you could probably look it up right now. A lot of other things are going on. But if you could probably still find it right now if you just Google Catholic priest sexual assault. I guarantee you will find something. And I found that to be disturbing. I found that to be sickening. I found that a place where, and I know people make the argument, well, there's always a bad apple in the group. Well, I get it, but even bad apples get talked about. Even if with all the situations going on with police brutality and police killings, slaughtering humans, well, yes, there's just bad apples, but they're being talked about. Well, you don't see that in the church. You don't really see it. You see it sometimes, but then it's completely forbidden to ever make an appearance again on the news channel or anywhere. And I found that to be sickening. I found that it made me lose faith in the church, that the Pope and the Vatican City knows about these things that are happening, and all they do is move their puzzle pieces, move their chess pieces throughout the world. And that was just, didn't like that. Also didn't like the idea of collecting a shit ton of money, like 10% of your income has to go to the church or something like that. Whatever it is, I found that to be ridiculous. I also found the idea that accumulating wealth, and I could be wrong on a lot of these things, and I apologize. And I also realized that this is a podcast that could not get me in trouble, but can be controversial to a lot of people, because I know a lot of people that are religious, and I think it's a beautiful thing. I think at its core, it's a great way to live. I think it's a beautiful way to live. I think it's a way that everyone should live. Don't have sex with your neighbor. Covet thy neighbor. That's what it says. Don't kill people. Don't steal things. Those are arbitrary rules to live by. So I think at its core, its design is good. I think it is a healthy way to live your life for a lot of people who feel completely disassociated with the world, who feel lost in this world. I think it can provide a lot of comfort for those people. But I didn't like how so many things were getting covered up. Sex rings, priests and deacons and archbishops, like having sex with young kids, abusing young kids. And there seemed to never be repercussions, and that was disheartening to see. And I know there's a lot of sketchy things with, like, since it's a religious group, you don't have to tax them. So I assume that they're rich as hell, which is very hypocritical, because if you go to the Vatican or if you go to a church, it's beautiful. There's gold. There's beauty in it. But as a follower, you're not supposed to be rich, because that's a sign of, that's like a sin, And I think there's just a lot of things growing up where I was like, that's bullshit. Like, that's nonsense. Like, I got to do this, but this is happening. And I was also very confused with this idea of peace, this idea of love. But if you look at the greatest wars of all time, and when I say great, I don't mean positive. I mean great as in, holy shit, that's a lot of dead people. Or holy shit, that is violent. Have been off the basis of religion. And I think religion just translates into a tribe. And that's what humans are. And this is my point. We are tribe animals. We gather into groups. We gather into pods of people that are similar to us. You can see this everywhere. If you just walk through the mall, you see goth people hang out with goth people. You see, liberal arts people hanging out with liberal arts people. You see and super intelligent people hanging out with the intelligent people. You see this. It's a comfort level, and it's not inherently bad. It's just what people do. And if you look at evolution, you look at us moving from the trees as individuals to tribes. Well, for the longest time, we're hunter-gatherers. Hunter-gatherers didn't allow for the creation of huge cities, for huge gatherings of people. It didn't allow for growth, economically, or just people. You couldn't expand a family as a hunter-gatherer, because you're constantly moving. It's very nomadic. You're killing meats only, so if you're only killing meat, then some days you just don't eat, because it's harder to hunt than it is to grow food. Constant fertility isn't nearly as high, because men are constantly getting killed from hunting. So it's a very rugged lifestyle where you can't grow a family. You can't expand a tribe. You can't grow a community. The agricultural revolution came among us, and this is when you started seeing the change of that. You started seeing, well, now you can grow somewhere near a river basin, and you can grow plants. You can grow food. You can grow fruits and vegetables, seeds, flowers. You can now eat. You can now eat consistently. You can sustain yourself. You can sustain other people. The hunters don't have to hunt nearly as much, so they're not dying left and right. So people are coming back home. People are reproducing, having kids, having a family. They realize early on that the best way to survive is to have a community, because community, people in numbers equal strength. And then people in numbers equal, if you can all agree on the same thing, equals even a stronger tribe. And you see this starting to be the beginning of the religion revolution. So it's this idea that evolution, the process of us forming tribes and expanding our communities and starting to look like a more modern day society, evolution almost sparks religion in a weird sense. We're in a tribe because we have a need to be in a tribe. We have a pool of people. Loneliness is one of the most heartbreaking things in the world. Even people who are in relationships, if you don't have a strong relationship with somebody, strong connection, well, you feel loneliness. Loneliness doesn't mean just physical people. It means spirit, So as the years go on, as thousands and thousands of years go on, you have to develop a system. You got to develop law and order. You got to develop wrongs and rights. People start dying. The fear of death starts sinking in. Now, what do you do when the fear of death starts sinking in? Well, you got to find a thought pattern that makes you feel comfort. And I think that's where religion came in. I think it started there, this idea of comfort, and expanded over the years, over the millennia. And it's led to war, and it led to corrupt organizations. And I think, I asked Taylor a question, do you think religion is or almost growing out of that need of religion? And she said, no, not really. But I still feel like we are. I still feel like people are slowly disassociating themselves from traditional faith. I think we live in a world now where people associate themselves more with the party. The idea of being if you're a diehard Republican, well, liberals will look at you like you're the devil. If you're a diehard liberal, Republicans will look at you like you're a piece of shit. And it's this idea, the same way that Catholics in the Middle East went to war, or the Middle East and the Jews went to war for over thousands and thousands of years. Different groups of religions have always fought. They're fighting over not a misunderstanding, but a lack of empathy for the other side. And I think we're living in a world now where we're transferring our once traditional religious perspective. We're just transferring it to idealisms, to politics, to these sort of tribes, these tribes that make us feel power over another group. But with this one, there's no God. There's just an idea. With religion, there's at least a God. There's at least one thing that all of us can agree upon. Well, that Jesus exists. Because if you don't believe in Jesus, well, you're not Catholic. But the lines get super blurry when you're talking politics. I could sit up here and, during all this chaos in the world, I've kept a blue thin line in my podcast. I've had people reach out to me. I had a gentleman right when the George Floyd thing was going down. He reached out to me on DM, just out of nowhere. He saw my thin blue line, and he just wanted to tell me how he would never support my podcast, how he doesn't appreciate that I have a thin blue line on my wall, you know? I wasn't upset. I respect his decision. I said, dude, I totally get it. I respect your decision. I understand. I don't ask you to support it. You don't have to support it. I don't care. But my response doesn't exist anymore. You know, the response now is to go right back at the other person harder. And I don't think that person was looking for that. I think that person just felt like they had to say something. And I get it. It was probably insecurity. Because I support this thin blue line because, you know, it's not hard for me to say, but it is. I got to think about it. You know, I was raised by police officers. My parents are both cops. You know, I was raised in the community of police officers. My babysitters were cops. You know, I have all my friends and family growing up were police officers. I grew up in a thin blue line community. I grew up in a world where when I went out in public with my parents, they picked me up from school. If we went to McDonald's, people gave my dad handshakes. People said thank you to my mom. They saluted my parents. I grew up in that world where cops were friends, where cops were the protectors, where cops were be at the same house every Friday night for a domestic call. I grew up in that world. You know, police officers protect people. They protected me. So, but I have to realize that that's my reality. And I think I'm starting to kind of get into the world that we're currently living. That is my reality. That's the world I grew up in. I didn't grow up as a black man. I didn't grow up as a Hispanic man. There's no way for me to ever fully comprehend what it's like to experience a life as a different race. So my responsibility as a white man, someone who is a standard Republican, but I don't call myself a Republican. I think I'm very liberal on a lot of things, but I'm also very Republican on a decent amount of things. I like to drift. I'm a drifter. It's not my job to speak for these other segments of the American population. It's not my job. I think so many people right now, especially in the white community, are taking this as their job, as a sense of social justice, as a sense of this makes me a better person. Well, no, I disagree. I think what makes you a better person is to listen. I mean, just shut the fuck up and listen. You don't need to make a post every single day about how righteous you are. And you don't have to use, if you didn't care, if you really cared, I don't think you would be out there promoting how fucking accepted you are of everybody in the world. I could be wrong. I'd love if I am wrong. But I think the best thing we can do right now, the best thing that happened for the women's suffrage movement is people just, after a while, people just let women be heard. And it took a long time. I think the most important thing we can do right now, more than ever, is to somehow drop these very minute differences that we have among each other. We need to stop saying that this country is the worst country in the world. I saw someone say it's a third world country. It's not. It's not. It's really not. If you even look at the most dangerous cities, you can still walk through the cities and be okay. It's really not. Now, it's flawed. It's broken. In a lot of different ways, it's broken. And the only way to fix it is to listen to those people who come from the broken environments, listen to them speak, side with them, and help promote their message. But don't speak for them. Because by you speaking for them, you're silencing them in a weird way. You know? I think this is a very important time in our country's history, and I think this is a time where it will make us stronger as a country. A lot of people are embarrassed to be in America right now. A lot of people say this is a terrible country, it's a piece of shit country. Well, you know, that's fine. But, go to the Congo, go to Sierra Leone, go to Uzbekistan, go to Latvia, go to China. Then I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. In the same way that the civil rights movement, the women's suffrage movement seemed like the worst time in America. Well, it always made it better. And I think right now we are in the middle of this country correcting itself on a lot of different things. And I think that is a beautiful world that we get to live in. I think this time that we're living in will be taught to kids as it should be, as it will be. It's a revolution for a lot of people, and I'm all on board. I'm all on board. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if religion is a part of evolution or if it's just in our DNA and our genes, because this idea of death is so primitive, and we know about it. We're not many animals know about the death. We know about it. But yet, since we know we're going to die, so many of us still, including me, try to live the most beautiful life we can. Try to make as much money as we can. Try to love as deeply as we can. Try to grow as much as we can, even though we know death is among us. But we can do all that in a sense because death isn't among a lot of people, because a lot of people believe that we will live forever. Things will live forever. Our souls will live forever. We will go to heaven in a world that will be there forever. I don't know. It's a fascinating topic, but that's it. I'm going to go ahead and end this podcast. Just over 30 minutes. A little bit shorter, but I got a lot of homework to do. These podcasts for the next few months are going to be a little bit shorter, just in the sense because I have so much shit I got to do. Everything's online, so I'm trying to figure all that out. Towson made national news. They were on CNN because we had to shut down our campus, which, yeah, no shit. We had to shut down our campuses. I mean, shocker, right? I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, comment, subscribe. Leave the podcast review. I'll catch you guys in episode 119 of the Micro Lab Show. Peace out. See you. Thank you so much. Have a great day.